Hi, my name is Erin, and this is the Magic Coven Book Club. Welcome. I dreamed up this book club a few full moons ago, so it is manifesting here today with all of you. Thank you for helping me co-create the magic. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about me before we get into what this book club is. So my name again is Erin, and I would call myself a witch in training, or maybe a scholar of witchcraft. Professionally, I come from a background in book publishing. Books is something that I've been passionate about my entire life. And once upon a time, I even wanted to be an English professor. But this is even better than what I could have imagined as a self-proclaimed witch professor. And so I'm excited to share about these books that I'm reading about and learning from, get into questions and evolve from here. So let's get into it.
Let's take a moment to ground ourselves before we begin. So feel free to close your eyes. Empty all your air out. Then take a deep breath in and out. Acknowledge that here in this moment, it is safe. As you continue to breathe, become aware of the earth beneath you. Slowly, breath by breath, start to imagine roots extending down the base of your spine and into the soil below, down all the way to the core of the earth. Following your breath, let your awareness travel back up to you. As you enter your body again from below the surface of the earth, feel the energy through your core and up your spine. Now, in your mind's eye, imagine a circle around us. Picture the circle expanding into a bubble. The top goes up into the air, and the bottom stretches way down beneath the earth's surface. And from within this bubble, I call upon the strength of spirit, fire, air, water, and earth to be here with us. May this gathering be shielded, protected, and safe. May this gathering be a sanctuary of good energy. Now we have a sacred space where intentions are amplified and our work is protected. Open your eyes. So welcome to the inaugural Magic Coven Book Club. A little bit about what to expect from this book club. At each Coven meeting, you will learn from at least one witchy or magical book, and you can choose to read along or just show up. The beauty of this book club is that there's no pressure to read, and you can just sit back and enjoy the juicy learning from many magical books. There will be some discussion questions, and at the end, I will present one ritual or spell that you can take home to try. I hope you can drop in as you're able. Traditionally, witchcraft has meant the use of magic to inflict supernatural harm or misfortune on others, and this unfortunately remains the most common and widespread meaning. The witch archetype is commonly portrayed as an old woman, often living alone, who practices dark magic. Witches are known to be dangerous and powerful. And this is because as Christianity spread in Europe, old nature-based practices were labeled evil or satanic, which became a term of fear and persecution. And my hope with this club is that we can work together to reclaim the witch. This image reads, "If I had a hammer, I'd smash the patriarchy. I found it. Witchcraft is a hammer." We'll get deeper into the history and patriarchal lies that resulted in the defamation of the witch. And while witches can be both men and women, the persecution of witches has been predominantly female, so we'll work on reclaiming and healing the female witch identity to start. And the first step to doing so is to redefine the witch. So this definition comes from Amanda Yates Garcia, who wrote Initiated. It's a memoir about being a witch. And she says, the term comes from the Old English word wicce, pronounced witch, a wise woman. She practices oracular arts and sings incantations. She knows the secrets of herbcraft and can talk to spirits. The word wit and witch share the same root: to know, to understand, to be a person of intelligence. While the root of the word comes from Europe, witchcraft is practiced throughout the world, across time, by folks of all genders. In Spanish, witchcraft is called brujeria. In African American folk magic, it's called conjure. In Italian, a witch is a strega. In Mandarin Chinese, a witch is a wupo. Witches exist throughout space and time. Witchcraft brings together the magical people throughout the world for the shared goals of justice, liberation, and celebration of the life force of the earth. I would love for this type of definition to be the more common, widespread meaning of witch. And another definition that I most currently identified with is borrowed from Pam Grossman. She's the author of Waking the Witch, and she also has a great podcast about magic, creativity, and culture called The Witch Wave. She says, "A witch is someone who honors the divine in everything and who believes in the power of intentional, ritualized transformation." For me, this resonates because I believe in the divine in others, in myself, in nature. I see God everywhere. I am intentional about my practices of meditation, prayer, manifestation, and the witchy rituals that I use frame and systemize my work, such as working with the cycles of the moon, which we'll get into more. And ultimately, I believe that these rituals can bring about change and transformation. Some questions to think about. How would you define a witch? What are your fears about witchcraft? What excites you about witchcraft? And now I'd like to present our first official book of the Magic Coven Book Club, Women Who Run with the Wolves, written by Clarissa Pinkola Estés. And this is a book I truly believe every woman and every woman lover needs to read. It was published in 1992 and spent many weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. It explores the concept of the wild woman archetype, or a woman's innate, instinctual, wise, or witchy nature. It uses myths, fairy tales, and stories from around the world to help women reconnect with their powerful, creative, and intuitive parts of themselves. About the author, Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estés was born in 1945. She is Mexican-Spanish by blood, Hungarian through adoption. She was raised near Michigan in the farmlands, and she studied wildlife biology, wolves in particular. Her doctorate is in ethnoclinical psychology, the study of social and psychological patterns of cultural and tribal groups with an emphasis in indigenous history. And she calls herself a cantadora, keeper of the old stories to help women return to their wildish natures. So a quick introduction on archetypes. Archetype meaning a common expression of various human personalities across time and space. An archetype is a universal recurring pattern, symbol, or theme that appears across different cultures and throughout history. It's a concept that was introduced by psychiatrist Carl Jung, who believed in the idea of a collective unconscious. You may have heard of the more common collective consciousness, which is shared beliefs or morals that unify people. But the collective unconscious comes from a deeper instinctual part of the psyche that influences human behavior and cultural expressions. So these are things that just continue to keep coming up throughout history in different parts of the world, characterizations that humans can continue to identify with. And this book focuses on the archetype of the wild woman. And wild woman means the instinctual, untamed self within every woman. It doesn't mean out of control like some might interpret the word wild, but rather a woman living a natural life. She represents creativity, intuition, passion, and deep feminine knowing. And the author says that women and wolves are both wild. Both can be keen, brave, sensing, playful, devotional, protective of their young, mates, and their pack. They can have a reputation of being devouring or devious. They are fierce, relational, deeply intuitive. But while women and wolves are both wild, the difference between them is that women are socialized, meaning women are often socialized to ignore their inner voice and conform to societal expectations. She becomes a blur of activity. She is pressured to be all things to all people. When she loses her instinctual nature, she can become fatigued from being shut up in too small a mindset, job, or relationship. Does that sound familiar to any of you? Some more words of the unwild woman in the vocabulary of real women that the author spoke to. Dry, fatigued, frail, depressed, confused, gagged, muzzled, unaroused, weak, stuck, powerless, uncreative, without inspiration, without meaning, shame-bearing, unable to follow through, giving one's creative life over to others, life-sapping choices, overprotective of self, inability to set limits, not insistent on one's own tempo, chronically doubtful, away from one's god or gods, drawn far into domesticity, intellectualism, work, or inertia because that is the safest place to be. Wondering if any of you have felt these words for yourselves. When I first read these words, I felt seen, attacked, and hopeless. But don't worry, this book is going to teach us how to reclaim our wildness. These are some of the things that the introduction says in broad strokes, and then the stories that follow in the chapters further develop each of these ideas. Establish territory, find one's pack, be in one's body with certainty and pride, speak and act in one's behalf, be aware, draw on the feminine powers of intuition and sensing, come into one's cycles, find what one belongs to, rise with dignity, retain as much consciousness as possible, reside in the guts, not in the head. Which of these resonates with you? The author goes on to talk about how people experience the wild woman within themselves. She says that she comes to us through vision, through sights of great beauty like a sunset. We see her where we see her, which is everywhere. She can come to us through sound, music, drums, through cries. She comes through the written word, a sentence, a poem, a story that resonates with you. She comes through longing when you see someone else who has secured a wildish relationship, or longing when you realize you wish you had more time to dream and create. Finding the wild woman is a lifelong practice of knowing the soul. How have you experienced your wild woman? Once the wild woman is established, here are some things that the author says can happen. Creative lives blossom, relationships gain meaning, depth, and health, cycles of sexuality, creativity, work, and play are reestablished, women can grow and thrive, they know instinctively when things must die and when things can live, they know when to walk away, and they know how to stay. So why stories? The author says that traditional psychology is not sufficient for women. Psychology is silent on archetypes, intuition, a woman's way, a woman's knowing. So the answer is in stories. Stories are far older than the art and science of psychology. They're embedded with instructions passed down from generation to generation. Stories can join humans across time and space. Stories are medicine. We need only listen with soul hearing. Which leads us to one of the stories in the book. It's the story of Vasalisa and Baba Yaga. Vasalisa the Wise is a Russian fairy tale that also features Baba Yaga, an iconic witch character. I first heard the story on Story Owls a kids podcast when I was driving with my kids, and I did not pick up on all the hidden gems. So I was delighted and surprised to find the story in the book with all the explanations of the lessons embedded. It has a lot of Cinderella-esque elements that many of you will be familiar with. I think it's worth going and reading. She also has an audiobook in which she reads the story aloud. But for the purpose of this video, a quick summary is that Vasalisa's mother in the beginning of the story dies, and her father remarries, and the stepmother has two stepsisters who are cruel. All three of them are super cruel to Vasalisa. So they conspire to have her go out and find fire for their hearth that has gone cold. And they tell her to go find Baba Yaga and ask her for fire. So Vasalisa goes into the woods, and she takes with her a little doll, which is something that her mother passed to her when she was dying. And that little doll helps direct her to go which way or that. Vasalisa finds a way to communicate with it. And she finds Baba Yaga's hut, which is on chicken legs, and it whirls and it twirls. Baba Yaga has curled up fingernails that are really long, a long nose, a wart, just all of the trappings of the stereotypical witch that we know from fairy tales. And she asks Baba Yaga for fire, but Baba Yaga gives her these tasks to do first, which are impossible: cleaning up her entire house, making her a feast, separating mildewed corn from the good corn, and then she flies off. But Vasalisa asks her doll for help. The doll does most of the work for her. And when Baba Yaga comes back, she sees that she must give Vasalisa the fire. And Vasalisa takes his skull on a stick back to her home and is excited to show her sisters that she was able to complete the task. But then at the end of the story, the skull looks at the sisters and the mother and burns them to ashes. It is a sudden ending, and there's not much of an explanation, but that is how it goes. So the meaning of the story is that there is a handing down of intuition from mother to daughter. It's about the realization that most things are not as they seem, and we as women must call upon our intuition and instincts to sniffing things out. And then the story provides clear lessons on how to initiate your intuition. And I will summarize the top 6 lessons that Estés outlines in the chapter following the story. So lesson number 1 is to let the too good mother die. And keep in mind that in these stories, characters are representations of parts of self. So it's not about a mother or anybody else dying. It's about a part of you that's no longer serving you that needs to die. So Vasalisa has to let die the things in her life that are too safe and overprotected. The voices that say things like, oh, don't say that, or you can't do that, it's too dangerous out there. She must simply dive in and stand not knowing what will happen next. And it's going into the woods is the only thing that will retrieve her intuitive nature. So the lesson here is take risks, let the too sweet self die, and when the too good mother dies, a new woman can be born. Lesson number 2 is to expose the shadow. Stepmothers and stepsisters here in the story are symbols of the self that are shaped by society's expectations. They taunt, you can't do it, you aren't good enough, you don't have time, give up while you're ahead. We are cut off from life's vitality when our surroundings tell us that we're not good enough. And it's pointless to try to prove our worth to a chorus of jealous hags. We have to leave the chorus of criticizers and plunge into the woods. There is no way to both stay and go. Vasalisa must go into the woods. Lesson number 3, learn to navigate in the dark. So the doll in the story is a symbol of intuition. Vasalisa's mother gave her the doll, and there's no greater blessing a mother can give her daughter than a reliable sense of the veracity of her own intuition. Intuition can be handed from parent to child in the simplest ways, telling them you have good judgment. What do you think lies behind all this? And being bound to one's intuition promotes a confident reliance on it. We can strengthen our bond with our intuition by listening inwardly at every turn, asking, should I go this way? Should I stay or should I go? Should I resist or be flexible? A woman's intuition could be blocked, but it is never gone. We can exercise it to manifest a stronger intuition. Lesson number 4 is to face the witch. Baba Yaga in this story is a symbol of our inner witch. She lives in a house on chicken legs, it whirls and spins, and Vasalisa, who has been too sweet her whole life, has to learn to twirl, whirl, and dance like a crazy chicken once in a while. Estés talks about hypernormalcy that creeps into many of our lives, and it creates a routine life without meaning, and hypernormalcy encourages the neglect of intuition. So to wake up our intuition, we have to go into the woods and find the scary woman. Baba Yaga is our instinctive nature in the guise of a witch. And while society has villainized witches, the witch and wild nature is exactly what women need to bring to the surface. Lesson number 5 is to clean up house. So in the book, or in the story rather, Baba Yaga has Vasalisa clean up her house for her. And this is a symbol for cleansing and purifying the psyche. A wise woman must keep her psychic environment uncluttered. And how can we keep our psyche clean? Estés says to clear a time each day for contemplation, make a space that's clearly your own, and includes conversations, time, creativity, freedoms that are for you only. This could be contemplation, meditation, solitude, and each woman has her own way. One's wildlife has to be tended to on a regular basis. One of the tasks is also to cook for Baba Yaga, and this is a symbol for creating a consistent fire to cook up new and original things. Without fire, our great ideas, our original thoughts remain uncooked and unfulfilled. Lesson number 6 is to stay awake. When Vasalisa gets home, the skull watches the stepsisters and stepmother and burns them to ashes. It's because Vasalisa now has the place of knowing. She has fierce senses and she has herself. For a moment, Vasalisa becomes afraid of the power and wants to throw the fiery skull away, but a supernatural voice from the skull instructs her to stay calm and proceed. And this is meaning once a woman retrieves her intuition, there may come a time when she's tempted to throw it away. To possess good intuition causes work. With the skull light, we can clearly see all sides of ourselves and others, both the disfigured and the divine, and everything in between. Sometimes it feels easier to go back to sleep. But it's important for an awakened woman to choose her friends and lovers wisely. Estés gives this great analogy of having a buffet of delicious food laid out before you. You look at it all and certain things appeal to you, and it's not necessarily what you want, but it is interesting, and the more you look at it, the more compelling it becomes. And this is how some people make all of their life's decisions. They choose a thing just because it happens to be there at that moment. But when you're connected to your instinctual self, instead of looking over whatever happens to be at the buffet, you have to ask yourself, what am I hungry for? What do I crave? What do I desire? You may have to quest for a little bit longer, and it may mean holding out for what you want and manifesting deliberately what it is that you want. But intuition, once you have it, provides options. It allows for confident spontaneity. So listen to the inner hearing, the inner seeing, the inner being. Follow it because it knows what to do next. The ultimate theme of the story is that you must let things die. What must die, dies. And how do you know when it's time? You must listen to your wild woman, your intuition, and by the light of the fiery skull, we know. So take a moment and think about what part of the story resonated with you, and also think about how you would like to keep your psychic environment uncluttered. And moving on to spell work, I wanted to preface this by introducing the law of the returning tide, which says that whatever you cast out into the world will come back to you. So if you radiate positive energy out into the world, positivity will flow back into you in all sorts of ways. And on the flip side, if you radiate negative energy, then harm could also come back towards you. So I'm discouraging harmful magic. And once you understand the law of the returning tide, you can do magic not only for yourself, but for others and for the world. So this might be something simple, or it might be totally new to you. I think one of the beautiful things about witchcraft is that you can approach it from a beginner's mind, and people have all different ways of manifesting. But one way that I like to do my work is to work with the moon. And the moon has a very feminine energy. It's known for working in mysterious ways, kind of the hidden, intuitive parts, versus the sun, which could be a little bit more masculine. Everything's outright. And because the moon is always waxing and waning, it's a visual that you can track all the time, and there's always new opportunities for manifesting. So this spell work, Manifesting with Moon Water, is to, on the full moon, write down everything that you want to manifest and try to understand the why beneath the what. So for example, if you're manifesting a new house, is it safety or security that you want? Try to really get to the root cause and manifest from that place. Then add drinking water to a glass and place it outside somewhere where the full moon will pass over the water. Read your list of manifestations out loud and then fold it 3 times towards you. Then place it under the glass. In the morning, you can read your manifestation list out loud again and drink your moon water, filling yourself up with the belief that your wishes will come true. And now let's take a moment to close the circle. We started with opening the circle, and it's just as important to close it once we're done. So again, feel free to close your eyes and take 3 clearing breaths. Visualize the energy of the circle dissolving and flowing back into the universe. Blessed be.